My name's Abby Bangser, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about why platforms aren't tools, they're experiences, and how Kubernetes isn't your platform, but it's a great foundation to build one. And the thing about topics like this, and especially lengths of talk like this, is they do end up being a little bit of an opportunity to rant about some topics within technology. And the thing about talking about platforms and platform engineering is that we're at the risk of entering into buzzword territory today. Platform engineering has really grown in conversation in the last 6 to 12 months, and people are starting to wonder why. And honestly, I think we're beyond the risk. We're really in buzzword territory here. And I want to talk about why that's a problem and why you should still care about platform engineering despite the buzzwords. Because it makes me so sad that these amazing concepts become buzzwords. We've been here before. We've been here with Agile, capital A, lowercase a. How do we want to talk about that? We've also been here with DevOps. Is it a role? Is it a culture? And there's been debates about that. So how do you know when you're entering this buzzword territory? Talk about new job titles popping up, often without any changes in the actual role that people are exercising. You'll start to see vendors who are paying for search terms on existing tools. So this word is now being applied to something that already existed in the past. You'll get state of reports that are coming out. And there's just a general confusion around the internet as it argues about whether or not this is actually a new idea and whether or not it is useful or not. And my particular pet peeve is that often these ideas are about nuanced improvements. No, they are not fundamentally brand new and something that no one has ever tried before or been working towards. But the bandwagoning use of the term starts to confuse people and takes away our ability to learn about why this term is coming about and what nuanced improvement we have an opportunity to take advantage of as an industry. And when you want to talk about buzzwording, there's no better indication than that you have a Gartner report about it. And here is the Gartner report about platform engineering that has recently come out, end of last year. In particular, you can see here that platform engineering is an emerging technology that is an approach that can accelerate the delivery of applications and the pace at which they produce business value. That probably sounds awfully close to DevOps to you and maybe some other technology terms you've heard. And it's where people start to question, why is there all of a sudden this new term? Is it just to sell new tools? But if you go down to the next paragraph, you start to see introductions of new ideas. Here we talk about self-service capabilities. And yes, it's through automated infrastructure, which was quite popular during the rise of DevOps popularity. But this nuance around self-service is what I think a lot of the conversation in platform engineering is about today. And it's important to get to this nuance because tech has already been accelerating the delivery of business value for years, for a decade probably in certain ways. And it's always been the intention of technology. In the last kind of 10 to 15 years, we've had the continuous delivery revolution where we started delivering to production multiple to thousands of times a day. We've had the revolution around how to get learnings from hypotheses as quickly as possible on business ideas, rather than waiting for big bang releases using things like the lean startup. And we've completely changed our ability to introduce new software by changing the cost to introduce that to production. So the use of a cloud computing has changed from provisioning a new server to take weeks down to only taking minutes. Not only have we had this acceleration of business value for a long time, we've even been using platforms to do it for a long time. Back in 2009, Heroku became public, and that became the exemplar of how to provide something as a service that allows software engineers to quickly release new services, new business value to production. So this whole platform as a service, offering things on demand and as a service isn't new, but we are all of a sudden applying this term of platform engineering more widely and becoming more popular with that. And so like the title of my talk says, platform engineering is more than just tools. It's not just about going out and buying Heroku, and now all of a sudden you have a platform and you can provide quicker business value out to the public. your engineers and your organizations have to manage a lot more complexity than just running software in production. You also are going to be managing incidents. You're also going to be dealing with testing in different environments, customer support, compliance requirements depending on your industry and your organization. And you're going to be onboarding and offboarding both users and employees. And these are all requirements of your team and of your organization that can benefit from the standardization and as a service ideas behind platform engineering. There's nuance here. So the platform engineering experience, the platform as a service experience that people got from Heroku is something that showcased the autonomy and ability to use something as a service and how that would enable teams. And application teams wanted more of that. They wanted more of not caring about how the organization or the platform managed those production deployments, but caring that they had access to it without a lot of barriers in their way. That's what as a service provides us. Access without ownership of how something is done. But Heroku has very specific ways of doing things. Heroku and its competitors has very specific ways about doing things and only covers that very thin slice of what a platform may need to provide to an organization. So organizations were hungry about this wider platform, this wider set of offerings as a service. And Kubernetes came around right as that popularity of using DevOps methodologies to produce these internal toolings became popular. So Kubernetes provided this platform that allowed for broad and bespoke solutions. Organizations all of a sudden had access to be able to customize how incidents get managed, how we onboard and offboard customers and employees, how we manage customer support, and more. With Kubernetes, it was one simple Helm install away from having any tool at your fingertips. You could get Prometheus up and running to be able to collect your metrics. You could get a Grafana in order to get dashboarding. You could introduce a new CI/CD tool like Go, or you could test your code with something like SonarQube, and you could even do complex things like cert management with a tool like Cert Manager. All of this with simple Helm installs simply deployed out to Kubernetes. And so Kubernetes ecosystem has continued to grow and become complex. It's honestly a bit of a butt of a joke in many cases. You can get anything you need as an organization running onto Kubernetes. So is that your platform? Kubernetes is complex underneath the hood as well. As an organization, you need to be running this Kubernetes. Maybe you're going to be using a cloud-provided version, or maybe you're running it yourself and dealing with this complexity directly. So organizations and engineers start to ask themselves, is this my platform? And similar to the child book, if you're familiar with it, no, the dog is not the bird's mother. And no, Kubernetes is not your platform. And so here we need to talk about platform engineering and platforms again, and the nuance about it. So back to that definition by Gartner, and calling out two specific pieces of it. It talks about providing self-service capabilities, which is a high-level what about what a platform is, and it talks about doing so with automated infrastructure operations, which is a high-level how you might choose to achieve that. So let's dive a little bit more into what a platform should entail, because it's more than just tools. It is about the experience. And Evan Botcher, in a blog on Martin Fowler's website, shares what has become a quite popular definition, where yes, it has to do with self-service APIs and tools, but it's also services, it's knowledge, it's support. And it's about being an internal product that your teams can rely on in order to produce higher paced, higher quality, and safer deliveries. So let's jump into whether or not Kubernetes can be your platform. Now, I can buy that Kubernetes can be your base API, and I can even acknowledge that Kubernetes has an amazing set of platform primitives. Things like RBAC are set up within Kubernetes. Things like running a service and having access to it through IP addresses and endpoints. That's all set up as primitives in Kubernetes. And for the things that Kubernetes doesn't have by default, well, they have CRDs or custom resource definitions, so you can make the things you need. That is a great set of primitives by Kubernetes. I can also say that Kubernetes is great at managing complex applications. Using things like the operator framework or Helm charts can allow you to manage the complexity of an application that relies on many different moving parts within Kubernetes, as well as the life cycle of that application, upgrading it and removing it. And Kubernetes can also be the host of your dashboard or of your interface for your platform. Backstage is a great example of this. You can build your user interface for your platform. I can buy all of that. I can even buy that Kubernetes gives us that scaling solution that we need for our platforms. We might have many different clusters that we rely on and we can release our software to. But what I have to also acknowledge here is that to solve these problems, to use these primitives and to get the value of these complex apps and these running user interfaces, it requires engineering. And that's platform engineering. Platform engineering is the stitching together of all that complexity to provide the bespoke and valuable platform experiences that the organizations need to be successful today. And if you're a platform engineer, you deserve better. Because we don't look at our software engineers and expect them to start writing software from scratch, from bare languages. There are frameworks out there to get started quickly, to get a user interface running, a mobile app running, a service running quickly. And that's why I'm a part of the team that's helping to build Cradix, which is an open source framework for designing as-a-service offerings across your infrastructure, whether that be one or many Kubernetes clusters, whether that include SaaS products that you tie into like a Heroku or others, and whether or not that includes on-prem hardware as well. Because as a platform team and as a platform engineer, what you're really focusing on is that as a service offering, but it's your services and they need to be designed and offered in your way, bespoke to your company. So what Cradix provides is a framework and the primitives to be able to build those services to provide on demand. You get to define the interface. What is it your users need to be able to twist the dial on and select from? What are requirements that they need to provide you to request something? Do they need a test environment? How long do they want that to live for before it gets cleaned up? Do they need a new service? What type of persistence do they need? Do they need that to be a SQL or a key value store? Things like that are how you can define the options within your organization. But you also need to define things like how to customize on a request. All of this is covered by the framework that is Cradix. So if you want to learn more about why building a platform requires some amount of bespoke solutions, but doesn't need to be built from bash scripts or Golang up, you can use things like a framework to help. Check out our docs at cradix.io, where you can also get a quick start to see this in action. Or you can just check out our blog at syntasso.io/blog, where you can find some posts about how we work with lots of other tools right now, including tools like Backstage to populate that automatically, or Crossplane to create anything that you might need in your public cloud providers. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear me out on my frustration with the dismissal of platform engineering as a buzzword and why I think it is a key part of engineering and that we should be treating it like engineering and building frameworks to support it. Thank you so much.